y'all. I'm here. It's my first tea with Teeti. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm doing this by myself. so, welcome to my first tea with Teeti. I've got some tea here. Today I'm drinking some eucalyptus tea from Buddha Teas. It's yum. Anyway, you probably see from the name of the video what I'm talking about here. So it's really kind of like a sad day for me, if I'm being honest, because I'm like, wow, is this thing really over? Are Rashid and Symone actually going to end this thing? Before we get into that, um, I just wanted to play one thing. Actually, it's two things because if you don't know, the other half of those two sisters, Demita Joe, is teaming up with Say It Fitness to do an ab challenge. And I'm very excited. I actually already joined, and I'm going to play the commercials so that people can know like where to support, how to support. As a matter of fact, before I do that, I just want to show you exactly what this is about. So it's the Ultimate Ab Makeover Challenge with Coach Jasmine and Coach DJ. It starts on the 22nd of July, so you still have time to sign up. That's the important thing. Like, look, it's time to get fit, y'all. I know it's been time to get fit, but I just got the memo. So I am all signed up. I'm ready to go. I paid my money. I'm like first in line. And I'm gonna be fine, y'all. I really am. I mean, like, it's not even really about being fine because I already am, if you really want to talk about it. But I definitely am just wanting to get more healthy and just, I needed something to like kickstart because I've started and stopped so many times. And I'm just like, all right, I need to do something. So this came at this is like the best time for me. So I've already signed up, but you guys should sign up too. And I'm going to try, because normally I have my partner in crime to help me, or we help each other. But since I'm here by myself, I am going to play this and hopefully I don't mess it up. Yeah, here we go. This one. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to play this so that you can see exactly what the challenge is about. Uh-oh, you can't hear it.
And I'm a mindset and fitness coach.
Hi, I'm Jasmine, and I'm a health and fitness coach.
And boy,
do we have something for you.
Do you want a slim waist?
Are you tired of making those I need accountability partner posts on Facebook?
Ready to fix that stomach part a little bit?
Well, come and join our Ultimate Ab Makeover Challenge, where abs are transformed from home.
For the low price of $91, you can go from this to this.
And for the even lower price of $90.99, you can join our Ultimate Ab Challenge so you can transform your abs from home.
Are you ready?
See you there.
So yeah, that is the commercial. I just love the commercial. I told her after she did it that I love infomercials anyway. I don't even think she knew that about me, but I don't know why. I love infomercials like early in the morning and like 3:00 in the morning when the infomercial's on. Like I just love watching them. It doesn't even matter if I need the thing that they're selling. It's just one of those weird things. Anyway, so make sure you go check that out. In order to sign up for the challenge, you can go to either of their Instagram pages, but I would just go to By Demita Joe on Instagram. Actually, I linked it in the description box. You can go to By Demita Joe and go to her bio, and there's a link in her link tree to sign up for the challenge. Look, y'all, it's time to do this, okay? So I'm down. Y'all need to get down with it, all right? The other thing that I wanted to shout out, the other person that I wanted to shout out is a person that I used to we went to high school together, and she I'm going to share this now. She has a book out. She's been a writer for a long time. I mean, I'm talking about this is a really good person. Like, I seriously love this person. Her name is, I don't know if you can see that. No, because I don't have it up on the stream. How about that? Her name is Aaliyah Bilal, and she just wrote a book called Temple Folk. And you can actually get it on Amazon. You can get it. It's at Busboys and Poets. I think I saw a link for it at Barnes and Noble, but you can obviously just go to her website. That I've tagged her page. I think. In fact, I think I put it in the description box as well. But you can just go to her website or her Instagram. And isn't she beautiful? Look at her. I went to high school with her. I'm so proud of her. And she is literally such a sweet person. Like, if you were ever going to support somebody, this is the person you would want to support because she's just so kind. And like this picture right here is her personality, like all summed up. Like, she's literally as sweet as she looks in this picture. She's so fun. And she was just a great student and she's just a wonderful human being, I have to say. So if you oh, and I should tell you what the book is about. It's actually it's a book about it's stories, right? I think it's about 10 stories about Black Muslims, like Black Muslim stories about Black Muslims in America. And yeah, my copy is on the way, so I can't even really tell you how great it is, even though I already know it's great because I just know everything she does is good. Like, she used to be like one of those students I was like had an above 4.0 GPA, and I used to think like, how do you get more than 4.0? But she was in all those AP classes. So anyway, I'm telling all her business, but it's all good stuff. So hopefully she doesn't mind. But go and buy this book, Temple Folk by Aaliyah Bilal. Go and buy it today, okay? Because you will be supporting a great cause. She's an amazing person. So wanted to share that love. Now we're going to get into some of the heavier topics that we came to talk about on today. Listen, y'all, I saw Rashid and Symone's podcast on Dear Future Wifey. Actually, it wasn't their podcast, but they were on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. And I'm actually just gonna I linked it in the description box because it's a really good podcast to watch anyway. And I'll go on ahead and sort of like try to have this playing um so that you can see what I'm talking about here. I'm not gonna play this thing from the man's channel because I want you to go and watch the actual podcast. But I will say that there it is right there. This is what you're looking for here. You're looking for the Dear Future Wifey podcast, and you could hear it wherever you listen to your podcasts too. But I watched this podcast on YouTube, and just a shout out to the Dear Future Wifey podcast in general, because I always come away with some information about like that I can utilize, like in my relationship, like in our marriage. We just celebrated 5 years earlier this spring, and I always come away just like grateful, to be honest with you, whenever I catch one of those episodes, because it's always something crazy that somebody's going through, and I just am grateful that I don't have to deal with a lot of these really huge issues that some people have to deal with in their marriages. Like, our stuff is, I mean, we go through normal stuff. We're not perfect. We're not, any different than other people, but I do get really grateful when I come away after hearing some of these crazy stories, because I'm like, wow, like, even whatever we're going through, it's nothing of detriment like what I sort of witnessed. And even when I hear people's great stories, like with things that they're not necessarily going through, I feel like, you know, I feel like I can take something away from it. So I can always glean something away from the conversation, even if it's not something that I sort of, need to. It's like you always need to work on something. So I just appreciate the podcast in general over there, because it always just makes me grateful to be in a good relationship, but it's just stuff that I can implement to be a better wife, a better partner, sometimes even a better like friend to people. Like some of these things are common sense, but sometimes you just don't really get a good, you don't really have a clear picture on how you affect people. Like you could just only sometimes think about what you're going through and what how things are affecting you. You're the star of the show. I'll kind of talk about that later, but um I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for our marriage. Um and one thing that I've learned, honestly, now I'm gonna be a little transparent, but even though I'm not trying to give away all my business, um, one of the things that I've learned in my particular marriage is that there's two of us. That sounds obvious, but like in the beginning, you just, you lived your whole life. If you haven't been married before, as a single person, you only have to worry about yourself. If you have children, a family, you put them somewhere in the mix, but you only really thinking about your day, the way things are affecting you. And when you get into a relationship, especially a marriage, specifically a marriage, it's no longer just you, it's two people. And that sounds obvious, but one of the things that I've learned, probably in that first year, maybe it took me a little bit longer than that actually, is to realize that like there's two of us and it's not just me trying to have a good day, it's him living his life trying to have a good day too. So all the things that he would want out of his wife, right? Or all of the things that could uplift him and make him have a better day. I need to have those things into consideration as well. And it's not just me thinking like I'm the star of my own movie walking around and everybody else is my supporting cast. It's like, no, he's also the star of his movie and he's walking around and I'm his supporting cast. So that's something that's not necessarily, it sounds really like obvious that like, of course there's two people, but is something that is very hard to remember at times, especially when you're just having your own experiences. So that's something that just to share a little bit about, what I've learned in marriage, but also it's going to relate to Rashid and Symone in a second. But you're just watching the podcast where they were interviewed. It it made me see things a little differently than I had seen them before. And I just want to get into that a little bit. First of all, I'm very grateful to Rashid and Symone for sharing their story, because it's difficult to put your business out there and have people judge you and make judgments and make comments on how you do things. It's like most of us walking around don't have to think about that, and we use social media as an escape or as a tool to promote our businesses or our platforms. You know what I'm saying? We use social media for fun or for gain, and it's a different story when somebody's sort of like coming for you on social media. It's like you can't even really escape there anymore, right? Whereas when you live in your life as a normal person, out of the spotlight, you can just be distracted by social media. You can go on social media and have a good time, but it's hard when people are all in your business and and you're going through life and now there's people in your business telling you what they think. It's like, I gotta think that that's very hard. I have not gone through it, but I would imagine that it is a very challenging thing. So shout out to Rashid and Symone in the first place for even putting themselves in that seat and for coming together and having that hard conversation. I really applaud them, and I applaud Latarius, the host of Dear Future Wifey, because he always is able to like get in there and ask the questions that really get people vulnerable. And so I don't know how he does that, but I really enjoy it. And so I just want to thank them, and I just want us to remember out here on these internet streets that we should have some compassion, because I personally was sad to watch. I'm going to tell you in a second why, but I think we should think about having more compassion for people. And this is me as, the asshole that I am at heart. And I like to make jokes and I like to have fun and make fun of people and stuff. But these people are going through a breakup. And if you've ever been through a breakup, it is very hard, depending on how deep you were in the relationship. So I feel bad for them. And I felt sort of sad at times while I was watching. Not sad, but just like sad for the situation. I wasn't like sad for myself. I was just like, wow, this is kind of sad that we're having this conversation, because we don't really get to see people have that breakup conversation other than on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. He's brought a couple people on there who were breaking up that I saw, and it is a tough thing to like sort of be in the hot seat and have to be accountable for some of the things that you've done, and then have the person right there to be able to like call you out, like, no, that's not how I remember happening. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting conversation. Like I said, if you didn't get the chance to watch it, I highly recommend it. You can follow the link that's in the description box. But anyway, that's why I say it's sad to watch. Now, personally, I'll tell you that I think I trauma bonded with them. This is why their story is so fascinating to me. Like they got together seasons before, right? Like before I came upon them, right? Like they were already their season of Ready to Love had already aired. I actually started watching Ready to Love after their season, like maybe a season or two after. So I wasn't familiar with them, but when I say I trauma bonded with them, it was because the reason I say that is because I at the time that I came across their channel, I think Ready to Love was in Miami, maybe the second Miami season, I think. Yeah, it had to be. It was like earlier this spring. And there's a reason why I remember that. So around the time, like, my sister had been doing this sort of she has a channel, Mr. Meeta Joe, and she covers all of the reality stuff and all that stuff. And then I started to come on and we started to do things together, but I still didn't know about Rashid and Symone. And then the Ready to Love in Miami was airing, and they were talking about like Jeffrey or something. And at the time that was happening, I had experienced a loss in my life, and I couldn't stop thinking about the person that I lost, and I couldn't like get myself out of this funk. It was very weird. It was like I started to think about like my own mortality and just lots of weird things happening, right? And like my health, even though I wasn't going through anything health-wise, I still started to think more deeply about like how fragile life is and things like this. And I was missing my the person that I lost. And then I realized, okay, so not even then I realized, but like around the time this whole beef, or it wasn't even a beef, but it was like Jeffrey from that season was kind of being roasted by Symone. And this is when I found out about Symone and Rashid's show, Ages and Stages, because they had come on in the beginning of that season, I think, and he had proposed on TV. But I didn't really know anything about them. But then around the time that I lost my friend, I realized like, oh, this is something that'll take my mind off. Like for some reason, it just came at the perfect time, because I was like into it. And I was like, oh yeah, like it's taking my mind off of what I was going through. And it was interesting and it was funny. And I loved them as a couple. So I think at that point, I kind of trauma bonded with them, even though they didn't know, and they still don't know me. In my mind, they were friends to me because I was able to escape through, listening to them and laughing and some of the other stuff that was happening online at the time. So I I think I bonded to them in that moment. And from then on, I was like, man, I'm so glad that, the Black Love, I've always been a fan of Black Love, obviously. So I really wanted them to work out. Not to say they still won't, because I really did. I have a different take on things than I did a couple of months ago, or whenever this story broke. I think he came out, maybe it isn't even a couple of months ago. I don't even remember when he came out and with that it was like a confessional video that he did on the Ages and Stages channel, and kind of outed himself and all of that. Whenever that happened, and then Symone had done an interview a few days later, I think. And shout out to Kamisha, because she did an interview with Kamisha. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening, right? She's been doing interviews. Symone has. I don't really know what Rashid has been doing, but he was talking about how he has all of these plans to like fix his financial life and all these things, and so I guess that's what he's been doing. But um it was an interesting thing. But then once I watched this, I realized that I have a different take on things after they both came out and said certain things and were able to be right there to hold each other accountable for what was said and how they took it, right? Now, nothing I have to say is like from a place of judgment. It's just observations, and it's just like, I'm going to be kind because I realize these people are people, and they're not just entertainment. They're actually going through a breakup. I really believe it. And if they're scamming us, then whatever. Like, whatever. It's not hurting me, so I don't care if I'm being fooled or whatever. But I will say that it's been helpful to me, some of the things to even witness some of these things, like even watching, like I said, this podcast where they came together. I took away some things that I felt like I could use, and like it just kind of made me check in on myself, like, do I do that? Like I wonder how that would work. Like it reminded me of my own relationship, not even just my own marriage, but just other relationships that I have. And I noticed some things that she was doing that I do, and I was like, wow, I wonder if people are being affected the way that it looks like he's being affected. Not even just in a marriage, right? I was actually not even thinking about that when I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about. I'll get to it later, but just want to say that I'm not judging them. I'm just making these observations that were helpful to me. And hopefully we can all take something away from it, because they're living their life out loud and we can all see what's happening with them. And I wish them the best. But, since they're here, we might as well all learn and grow from this, right? So anyway, I did really want it to work out for them initially because I wanted them to work like being a married person, I love when people get married. I love Black love. But after seeing this, I had a bit of a different takeaway than I did before, because we just don't know everything. Sometimes in the actual relationship, you don't know everything, right? So there are some things here that we may have observed just from watching them that they themselves might not know about themselves. I considered that, right? They might know, they might be aware, but like when you're watching someone and they are just being themselves, or especially if they're passionate about something, or they react to something in the moment and you catch a glimpse of it, they can't see it. They're just experiencing it. So some of these things might be just wrong, but some of them might be real things that we're observing real time as they're going through them, and they don't even know. I thought about that. As I was watching it, I was like, dang, did she see his face when she said that? Or did she hear herself? Or did he realize that this was happening? Right? Like there's certain things that are like this, like, does he get that? Did he pick up on this? And so it's really interesting. And then Latarius was right there to even catch some of the things that I was thinking. And he was right there to say, like, right in the moment, like, actually, maybe look at it like this. And they were receptive. So it was really interesting to see. I'll say this to start. I feel like after watching that the reasons that they're giving for ending their relationship are just that maybe that's the biggest reason, but I think there are other reasons. I'm going to get to that as I sort of go through some of the bullet points that I have. But I think Symone, to be honest with you, I think that she just doesn't want to marry him. And this was the best reason. I'm not accusing her of this, but like I've been in situations before in past relationships where I just wanted to break up with dude, and it was just like the next thing he does wrong, I'm just going to call it that, right? And it's not even like I needed a reason, but for some reason, sometimes we just have to have a reason. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to be the bad guy who ends the relationship just because I don't like you anymore. So I'm going to blame it on something that you did that's you know what I'm saying, and be like, this is why I can't be with you, see? And I feel like it's a little bit of that, and I don't know that for sure, but some of the stuff she was saying just didn't add up. And so hey, nice to meet you, Joe. Some of the stuff she was saying just didn't add up, and so I considered that. I considered that as a possibility. Like, what if she just knows that she can't marry him? Because at one point in the story she was telling, she was saying that like when he came back to her and said, "Oh, I don't have the money, like we're going to have to elope," she was like down with it. And then she came back to him later and was like, "No, I can't do this. I slept on it," or whatever, right? She said, like, "I slept on it and I can't do this." And I think that just from the reasoning she gave, and then later on, she was like, if she was financially stable, then it wouldn't be an issue. It's like, well, but that's not what you're saying. It doesn't make sense, right? So I'll get into that later. Let me just go through my little bullet points, and it'll make sense the way that I understand it. So before watching the podcast, here's what I understood. She helped him out a great deal by helping him with like some legal issues, some financial stuff. She was able to get like cleared from his record. And one thing that I think may not be um given enough weight is that both of their families love them. Both of their families love one another. I'm not saying their families love each other, but both of their families love them, each of the members of the couple. And that is huge. I can't really tell you how good it is to have that. Like I have that too, but it's very special because it's the beginning of a village. If you think about people who have to like go out there and make it on their own, and just the first thing that comes to mind is like people back in the, 40s and 50s, or even recently in interracial relationships where you're not really getting the same support that you would get if you were in a same race relationship. Like when you have support from both sides, it is really big. It is a really big deal. And they both seem like really cool people. I can jump out there and say that they both seem like really cool people. So I can only imagine both of their circles connecting. Like she's really funny and intelligent. He's really funny and he's like well thought out, and he's like got some swag. And so I know his friends and his circle that he runs with is probably like full of people like him. And so those two groups of resources coming together, I think just as far as like community is concerned, that's an exciting thing for me to think about. Right. And so that's one of the reasons why I felt like, oh, they're going to be a great couple. They're going to do things because they both are these types of people that are, driven, and I know they have successful people around them, and they're going to connect, and their circles are going to connect, and they're going to build something amazing, and we're going to get to see, that, and that's going to be beautiful. So along with the trauma bonding, I also had some really just positive, like I was invested with them because I was like, yeah, this is going to work. This is going to be great, and then they were producing content, and it seemed like they were both really getting, into that, and they still are, separately, but, that was just something that we're all just going to have to let die if this relationship ends. And I think it might be, here's another thing that I understood. She didn't feel financially safe, and her needs were not met, right? I'm paraphrasing here, but this is what I got from it. There was a broken promise, so the trust was broken, right? She mentioned that she wouldn't be able to submit to someone if she wasn't able to trust their financial planning skills, right? And so I understand that to be her sort of like plight, right? But we're going to get into that a little bit down the way, where it kind of doesn't make sense for that to be the reason to break up. Also, here's what I do understand that we might be missing, but both of them are a catch, right? It's not just a one-sided thing where only he's a catch or only she's a catch. They're both a catch. They're both really, seemingly good people, but in every single relationship you're going to find two flawed people, right? Every single relationship that you know of, even if you think like Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are not flawed, they are. And each of those people know the other one's flaws. And so in each relationship, you're going to have two flawed people. It just comes down to what kind of flaws are are your deal breakers. Because I'm not even gonna say what kind of flaws can you deal with. You're not picking flaws. You're not building a person, right? You're coming in contact with another human being. You're saying, wow, I'd like to have you around for the rest of my life so we can like build something, or so that I can enjoy you, so that we can experience each other and build each other up. Like, I'd like to have you along for the rest of my life. That's how you pick your friends too. But like, I really saw something in them that I thought was a great, was a great thing, but I don't know if it was real or not, or if I just thought that, but people have all sorts of issues. I'm just kind of going over some of the obvious stuff here, but like I've seen, and especially watching Dear Future Wifey podcast, watch a couple of those. There's people with drug addictions, alcoholism, gambling addictions, porn. People have hygiene issues, right? People have health issues, which can't be sort of like avoided. They just have health issues. People have lots of issues, and so financial issues don't really seem like the types of things this doesn't seem like something that can't be fixed, especially when you have someone who's like driven and who can make money and who is aware of how they thrive in a money making situation, somebody who does have assets. So it doesn't add up, because these two people are both flawed, just like everybody, each one of us is flawed. And so it seemed like the financial situation wasn't really enough if you're getting all the things that he said, right? And so this is why it was interesting to have them both there, because when they were giving each of their sides of the situation, I noticed that Rashid is more inclined to not say anything. Like, she takes the opportunity to be like, not selling herself, but like, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. And like, she's not afraid to like tell people like what she's doing. And he just doesn't really do that all that much. So I've seen he's kind of gonna like just sit back and know what he did, but not really say it. So it kind of looks lopsided because he's not listing out all of the things that he's bringing to the table. But in this particular podcast episode, he revealed, because I didn't know this before, that when they got together, when she moved in, she wasn't having to pay any bills. That was something that I had missed beforehand. Now, that's a contribution. That's bringing something to the table, okay? When you live with somebody and they're paying all the bills, that is pretty, that's nice. Now, with that, if he doesn't seem like this kind of guy, I don't know their business like that, but sometimes when people pay all the bills, they want to make all the rules and they want to tell you where you need to be and all that stuff. It didn't seem like that with them. Like, I remember when that whole thing came up with Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade, and she was talking about 50-50, and everybody was like, oh, he make all this money and they 50-50. Then it later came out when he was on somebody else's podcast, I think it was Shannon Sharp or something, where he had made a comment to Gabrielle Union one time saying, oh, well, this is my house. So basically fill in the blank. I don't know what he said after that, right? This is my house. Like, what does that mean? If I'm living with somebody and they paying all the bills and they start their sentence out with that, or that somehow slips out of their mouth, well, this is my house. So you can, or, whatever comes after that is not okay with me, right? Well, this is, unless it's like a nice thing, which it never is, right? So just to be honest with you, well, this is my house. Like, that means what? Like, so what? Like, if you're paying all the bills, sometimes that could come with another sort of expectation. That's all I'm saying. So it doesn't seem like that Rashid and Symone were having that type of thing, though, where it's just like, well, he's like one of those guys. It's like, well, this is my house, so you do what I say, or this is my house, so you have less freedom or whatever. So but by him revealing that she didn't pay any bills, it started to make the story a little bit more perplexing to me, because her whole deal was, he was supposed to come up with this amount of money. He's supposed to come up with $1,000 a month for 10 months in order to pay for their wedding. And she done got a whole traveler's license or whatever, right? Like, she went and became a travel agent so that they could get this discount, so they could do this. And she did this and this and that. And that. She was like listing all this stuff out. But it's like, and then she was like, but he just couldn't save $1,000 a month. I wasn't worth it. Now, I can understand how she felt like that, maybe, right? But then when you take into consideration that he's paying bills, he bought you a ring, he's not to say that he should be rewarded for this, but it's just like, you don't have to, she said she didn't have to worry about him cheating, or she didn't have to worry about him coming home at night. It's like, he's bringing a lot to the table here. It's not like you weren't a priority. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's making sure that you're safe. Like, he seems like a protector. He seems like, he doesn't have any problems like helping out when you ask. It seems like that. Like I said, I don't know all their business, but it seemed like he was bringing a lot to the table. So for you to say that you weren't a priority enough for him to come up with $1,000 a month as if that's all he had to do, a little lopsided, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure she felt like that. And like I said, there's pieces of the puzzle that we will never have. But honestly, if she's saying she wasn't a priority, that's something that she's feeling. I don't think that's a fact, right? Like, she made it like that in her head, in my opinion, because it's like that's a different picture than what was painted before. Like when we talked about, like, when I was introduced to the term financial infidelity, it was like he was lying. He was lying about what he was doing with his money, and that just really put us in a predicament because, he's irresponsible. But lo and behold, he's not irresponsible. He's making sure the bills are getting paid. He's making sure that that you have that nice ring. And, so he made some mistakes. And I'm not trying to say this to like let him off the hook or anything like that, but she's making that assumption that she's not a priority, or it's not an assumption. She's making that, the fact that he couldn't come up with the $1,000 by the date that they had said, she's saying that he wasn't prioritizing her. That's what that means. He was prioritizing her in other ways. And I don't know that she's like seeing that. Also, he has other priorities. He has a son. I'm sure he's, obviously making money some type of way. He said he has a job now. But he's doing other things, but you're also being prioritized. It's 24 hours in the day, lady. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to say that in the way, like, because I do love her. I think she's amazing. I think she's intelligent. I love what she's doing with her girl. Is that Legal Channel? I love what she stands for. She's a bubbly person, but we got to really look at apples for apples here. We can't we can't make our feelings facts, right? Like, if he was prioritizing you in many ways, then that means that you were a priority. It's just that he couldn't get it together the way that you wanted him to. Also, one of the glaring things when you watch this, right? And this is something that I personally took a look at myself at, is when she's talking over him. Like, she talked over him a lot, and in the way that she was saying certain things, it was like he was the butt of the joke. It came off a little judgmental. So this made me check myself. I'm not judging her for this. I literally took that for my own little, put that thing in my pocket, because I was like, wow. When you talk about people right in front of them, and I know that's the way that the podcast is designed, right? It's like you tell your side, they tell their side, and we're all here together, blah, 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 right? But there's something a little funky about when somebody's talking about what you did right in front of you as if you just couldn't get right. You know what I'm saying? And it reminded me of it just seemed really condescending, like she was his manager or something, right? And like well, you just couldn't do it, huh? Right? And it's just like he's the problem, like he's there with the dunce cap on because his financial infidelity, because of his inability to, you know what I'm saying? It was like, whoa, this is a little bit much. So she kept over talking him, and it almost felt like he was being shamed. And like I said, people have all kinds of problems. And I'm not saying that this isn't a problem, right? But one thing that I really want to point out is like, he's an intelligent person. Like, he can get it together. You know what I'm saying? He got himself on a whole show. Like, I feel, I really do have faith in this guy. Like, I feel like what's funny to me, well, it's not funny, but I really do feel like, especially with the help that he said he was getting, he gonna turn this thing around in like 3 to 5 years. You know what I'm saying? He could be a millionaire the next time we hear about him. You know what I mean? And so for this to be such a big deal and a deal breaker is really interesting, because is it really a deal breaker? You know what I'm saying? And let me get into that a little bit after this. Financial structure and finances, I have to say this, they're man-made. Like, we decide what's enough money for us. We decide, like, oh, I want to have Applebee's money, or I want to have Red Lobster money, or I want to have Ruth Chris money, or I want to have Jose Andreas money, right? Like I'm naming restaurants or whatever, but I'm saying, like, you decide what a happy life for you is. And financial structure and the way that things work, it's actually different in everywhere you go. Like, I would say in every country, but like literally in every city, in every state, there's different neighborhoods, right? You could have a house over here in this neighborhood, you can have a house over there in that neighborhood, and you can find happy people in all the neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Like, you could actually decide what is enough money for you. So it's like, you can decide what is a good amount of money to feel secure, but there's no such thing really as security. And with that, and I'm not going to go too far deep into this because I could talk about this for hours, but if you really think about it, if you sit there and think about it for a long time, money is also not real. It's something that that not even we, but like our forefathers or whatever decided this is how money works. We're going to print some out. Now we're working with credit. I can't even tell you, like, I very rarely have cash. I literally do all my stuff online. So it's like I never see money. What is money really, right? It's a promise. That's what a dollar is. It's a promissory note. It's like, it's to say that like this has this amount of value. It's the same paper as $100 bill as a $1 bill. It's just what we all decided collectively we're going to understand. So, money and security, these are all sort of like illusions, and they have whatever power you say they have. So for this to be the topic of discussion for a breakup, it's really quite interesting because I don't feel like, it's enough of a big deal to end a relationship. And now this is not my relationship, so I realize that. But relationships are real, happiness is real, families are real. Having somebody to come and talk to you about your day or about how you feel about yourself, or to lift you up on the days that you don't have it, for you to get through losses, to have, a family and build a family around, and to play, games and go to the beach, and to have life experiences with, that's real. That's what's really real. You know what I'm saying? Like when Steve Jobs died with all that money, you know what I'm saying? It didn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like he had to sit there and face his mortality, and that's what was real. The money really isn't real. So I do think that there's something there. Also, I have to say this, like, it's not to put her out there, but my mom raised me and my sister, as she's a single parent, and she ended up getting married again after her and my father split up. But at one point, I think I found an old pay stub of hers from when we were very young, and she was a single mom at the time. And it was $18,000. This lady was making $18,000. I realized it was a different time, but I could only imagine, right, like what that paycheck looked like and how far it went. And we never went without food. We never went without clothes on our back. Like, we were always at activities. We always had something to do. We always had fun. We had entertainment. We had education. We got everything we needed from $18,000. I'm not saying she made $18,000 her whole life, but I know things were a bit hairy every now and then, but we never felt it. But what I remember is she always got everything we needed. So really it wasn't money. She just had resources. So she made a number of money, but she had connections. She had relationships. She knew, oh, I could go borrow this from so-and-so, or I could get some hand-me-downs from this place, or I could do this. What you really need is you need food. You know what I'm saying? You need water. You need shelter. We always had that, no matter how much money she had or didn't have. So I'm only making that a point because I'm getting ready to get to it later, how this is a decision that's being made to make this like the thing. And that's why the more I thought about it, I said, is this really about money, or is it about security, and is it about the way that you're framing things and the level of priority that you're giving things, right? And this is for the both of them, but I just wanted to put that out there, leave that there about money, because what I mostly remember about that, and I know this is a parent-child relationship and not a husband-wife relationship, but what I mostly remember is that she was always there. She was always there, whether I got in a fight or whether, me and my sister needed something. We wanted to show her a new dance or, something like that. We wanted to talk to her about some boy. We wanted to talk to her about, whatever. She was always there. And that's what I remember. That's what you remember. You don't remember the times that you didn't have, sometimes you remember the times you didn't have enough, but you remember the memories. Like, life is about experiences and memories. Let me put up some of these comments. Hold up. Yep. This is what my sister's in here saying. We have vacations. We had clothes, we had everything. Okay. And she said, yep. And it's usually not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. So I'm making this point because I understand, like, that it's important in a relationship to feel secure and to feel like somebody's got your back and somebody's going to get out there and, make it happen for you. So it would be one thing if he was on the couch playing video games. And I know people, who do that too, who don't have no job. I don't know those people, but I know it's a thing. You know what I'm saying? I know people. Well, actually, I do actually know some of those people. It'd be different if Rashid was like, I'll get a job one day. I don't need no money, right? I'm going to sit here and play this, Madden or whatever they play these days, right? Fortnite or something. Like, I'm going to play this game and I'll get a job when I feel like it. It'd be one thing if he was doing that, but he's not doing that. He's learning about it. And yeah, sure, you should be smart about there is a such thing as money. I've recognized that, like, I make money, I need money, right? But I just wanted to make that point because it's gonna come to full circle when I make my point in a little bit later. And I was gonna say, oh yeah, let me see this. She says, I know one, but he works and makes money so he can play all the games he wanted. Right there, she's talking about like the people who play video games and don't, and shirk off their responsibilities. This is not the person that she's saying right here, but there are people who just don't even want a job and they just don't do anything. Now, here's the thing on money. Should you be smart about investing and making sure your family's taken care of? Of course. You know what I'm saying? But it's a whole different thing to be learning about financial portfolios and things like that. That's a learning curve. Like, it's like I said, that sort of thing is different depending on what opportunities you have, depending on what skill sets you have, and it takes time to build skill sets. Doesn't mean it can't be done. It just takes time. I'm learning about investing. I'm learning about um, how trust funds work and how stocks and bonds work. I'm learning about how you can take out an insurance policy, a life insurance policy, and utilize that in ways that I didn't know that it could be utilized. So those things can be taught and learned, but they're not necessarily big problems that stay big problems. You know what I'm saying? Now, if he was going and gambling, all your money away, that's a different thing, right? That's something psychological. And they did touch on the fact that they're both going through therapy, or they were at one point, and that there is some underlying sort of like issue with the way things are being seen, internally. But I just feel like he's learning. We're all learning something, right? I didn't like the idea that the narrative is weird now, that he's some sort of derelict, or like he's beneath a level because he doesn't, because of his financial infidelity. Like, let's just let that one down, okay, everybody? Because like, we all have issues, okay? We all have issues, and if this is his issue, like, and it could be fixed, and he's wanting to fix it, like, I don't think we should be sitting here talking about this man like he's getting raped, like he, like kidnapped somebody or something. You know what I'm saying? And also, I'm sensitive to the idea, especially when Later's talked about his own son and how when he walked up to register for school one semester, the woman who was registering him called out in front of all the kids, like, oh, you're in special ed, you need to go over there, in front of all the children. So I'm sensitive to how that sort of stigma is being experienced, because one of the things that Rashid mentioned in his live weeks ago, at this point I really don't remember when it was, but whenever he said that he has some issues regarding his learning, like, I don't know if he has learning disabilities or just like challenges with being thought of as less than, and so he has some issues with his confidence. And so I don't feel good about him being talked to in this way, because it's like, again, with this whole, like, you don't have enough, you didn't do enough, like, you don't have it in order yet. And like, we're saying this to him as if his other qualities aren't good enough. And I just don't like, I don't know, something in my spirit was just not okay with that. I give him, props for coming out, and some of it was a little fake. I felt like, with him taking off the chain and stuff like that. Like, I think some of that stuff was for, effect. But all in all, like, it's hard to come out and say like, hey, I'm not who I say I am, right? And there's things that I do that I've been more honest in the past few weeks just about the struggle that I'm having with my fitness, right? Like with being consistent with my fitness. And so we all have struggles. And so it shouldn't be such a big deal for somebody to have a struggle. And I know that's just the way that the world works, but it's just a little bit of compassion can go a long way. I'll just say that. I don't like the narrative that he has to fix this in order to be, good enough, right? Even though that's where he is right now with his relationship. So that's a real thing, but because that's who he is with, that's who he is with. Someone who's telling him that he needs to fix this in order to be marriage material. And he has had issues before in the past. So he does have some things that he needs to fix. I'm just saying, like, people can work through things, and sometimes it's nice to work through things with your partner. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a thing too. You could say there's a point to be made for, okay, I know that you are going through this thing, and I don't know. I ain't gonna go there. I ain't gonna go there because this is her decision. This is their relationship. But that's an option too, right? Because she talked about how her, like, sort of like her biological clock is ticking, and so she doesn't really have a lot of time to wait for him to get things together. And so I understand that, but this is a decision that you guys are making, and perhaps that part wouldn't be an issue if you could come together in other ways. But this is why it makes me feel like I actually don't think it's about this. I think it's something else. And I think this is just a reason for her to break up with him. I just think that she doesn't really want to marry him, but we'll see. Like I said, I really do want them to get together. For my own reasons, you know what I'm saying? And they talked about, this is another thing I want to talk about. They talked about how, she has options. I would like to think that, I'm betting they both have options. I do hope it all works out for them, but I think, I just like to hear from them. I thought they were a great couple, but I could see their potential together, you know what I'm saying? But if they don't work out, they both have options. You know what I'm saying? They're both good looking, well-to-do people with drive and intelligence and personality. They both have options. And so some of the things just seemed a little odd to me. And those are the things that I'm calling out. And that's why I'm coming away from this with a different thing. Also, I noticed his body language. I've noticed his body language before in videos, but I never really called it out because who cares? But and they weren't here at this point in their relationship. It will be things that he would react to. Like I remember when the whole Jeffrey stuff was happening, and she was calling out Jeffrey, and there was points where he was like big eyes, shocked, what's she gonna say next? And I could see that, but in this, he felt a little flattened. It felt like he was he also at certain points, I was proud of him for actually saying, I don't like it when you do that. He had said something at one point, and she was like, why are you raising your voice? And he was like, because I'm passionate about it. But honestly, I did not think he raised his voice. I remember thinking, what is she talking about? You know what I'm saying? But that seems like one of those power plays that people do sometimes without even knowing it. I think some of this stuff, like I said, we're watching this real time, and they might not even know that we're seeing things that they're experiencing, so they don't even know. But it's certain things that people do to have control. And when she sort of asked him why he was raising his voice, it felt controlling to me, because she's essentially saying lower your voice, or she's essentially saying check yourself, or check your tone, right? It's not even your volume. I felt like she was saying check your tone, because I don't even think his volume changed. I couldn't hear it. She was sitting right next to the man, so she but he didn't say I didn't raise my voice, but also just the idea that I can't raise my voice. I raised my voice. So what? I raised my voice. You know why? Because I'm a human being, because I'm a man, damn it. And I want to raise my voice. Anything like that, right? I get how it could make people uncomfortable, but that was just a little odd to me. So also hearing about him saying that his hope is waning, when they were like, do you think you guys will get back together? He was like, his hope is waning. I love the analogy he used, where he was like, at some point you think you 15 points down, I can get it back. When you 30 points down, it's you're not going to quit the game, but at the same time, it's I'm not going to plan to win this, especially when there's a time limit. Like I said, he's learning how to do something that he's not been good at doing, right? So that could take 5 months, it could take 5 years. But the pressure of someone needing you to do that in order to be good enough for them is disheartening. And I'm saying it just like that. The pressure of someone waiting for you to get good enough to be with them does not seem like a good look. And if he were one of my peeps, I would point that out to both of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I would say that to her if she was my girlfriend. I would say, so you're telling me you told this man that he's not good enough for you, and until he does this, he's not good enough for you. When it's not a personality thing, it's a practice that he needs to get better at. So I would tell her the same thing. Like, think about what you're saying to a human being, that they're not good enough for you because they're not this. Well, he wasn't that when you said, even though you thought he was that, right? Like, he still wasn't that. That doesn't mean he's not. And maybe he's not good enough for you, but you can't. He was never that, right? So you believed he was that. He wasn't that. And now you're saying, well, you have to be that in order to be with me. Forget all of the other stuff that you're bringing to the table. Forget the love, right? Forget the reliability. Forget the being a good person. Forget the I'm trying. Forget the, all that stuff. This is the thing that you ain't going to get past. So this is where it gets a little odd to me. His health, it doesn't seem healthy for him to try to do all of this on her timing. It doesn't seem like a healthy thing to require of someone in a relationship. It's like it's like it's one thing to say, hey, you need to be sober if we're going to be dealing with one another, right? And I'll help you however I can maintain your sobriety. But if somebody has a relapse, right, like, that's a different thing. It's a different thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't just do this. It's not conditional. This thing, love, it's not really conditional. So it made me wonder if they were even in it for the right reasons, if this is the deal breaker, because that's what this is. Here's the deal breaker. If the deal is broken because you didn't do this thing, because you're not good enough for me, because you can't do this is a deal breaker. So it just seems a little weird. I love the prayer that was spoken at the end of the podcast when Laterras prayed over them. I love how he broke down certain things at the end about relationships, that people are dealing with some really hard things. And this didn't seem to be like something that couldn't be overcome. They could get through this if they wanted to, right? But do they want to? Now that this has come out and it's so public, I don't know that they would want to get. I don't know that they would want to get through this. It's like such a stain. It's not a permanent stain, but it really just goes to look at each of them, like what their priorities are. And it actually is seen. I could be wrong about this, but it seems like it's up to her. Seems like it's all up to her. Like, if she was to say today or tomorrow, like, forget it, let's do this, right? It seemed like he would do it, and it seemed like it would go forward. That's what it seems like. Maybe now that this has happened, he could take a step back and see some things that he didn't see before. But yeah, I still, like, after all that, I still selfishly feel like they could make it, or not that they should, though, right? I want them to, but not if it's not right for them. You know what I'm saying? She is saying that, oh, this was a big part. I got to break this down real quick. I know we've been here for almost an hour, but listen. She said that she needs him to have this thing together in order to submit to him, right? This is where it's tricky, y'all, because she can't submit to him unless he has this thing together. So it's her decision to submit to him. Submitting to him doesn't have anything to do with money. I understand the difference between, like, someone being like, I want to be able to look at you as a leader, and you're going to be our financial planner, and I need you to have these skills. I need you to have the skill set. You decide to submit to someone based on whether they meet the criteria that you need for them to submit to you. So I completely understand that. But submitting to him is her decision ultimately. And if she cannot find a way to do that, then, it just doesn't seem like that would be about money. Okay, here's why. She said that if she had Oprah's money, she would marry him right away. But would you submit to him then? because that doesn't have anything to do with him having the skills or the money. So if you had Oprah's money and you were married right away, would you submit to him? Because that means you would submit to him as long as one of y'all has some money. And so it's not about his skill set. Now everything's wiped away. Why not do that now? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense because you could have Oprah money. You could work together and y'all could get to the point of some semblance of a fraction of Oprah's money, right? But if you would marry him if you had money, then why wouldn't you marry him now? Because you could both get money together. It just didn't make any sense to me, right? That whole thing just sort of flattened her point because it was like, okay, now I'm confused. Like, if you need him to have a good financial plan together in order to trust him enough to submit to him, that's one thing. But then you're introducing this new thing where it's just like, oh, well, if we had a bunch of money, or if I had a bunch of money, then I wouldn't need to. It just didn't make any sense. Like, you could still make your own money. You know what I'm saying? It's not about that, right? So anyway, this is where I started to think that she might be a little bit confused about her priorities, because with everything else he's bringing to the table, it seems like that's not that big of a problem. Like I said, I think that especially in today's day and age when we have the internet, we have investments, we have all of these different ways, these different channels which through to bring funds, right? He already said he has a property with a 3% rate. Like, what? He had a 3% interest rate on that property, man. He's good. Okay. She also said something about anyway, we're not going to get into that. I think he's going to be fine. Plus, with the help that he said that he's getting, I mean, listen, money is made up. He's going to be fine. He could run into a deal. You know what I'm saying? And this is not even going to be an issue. She's not going to stick around and help him be the kind of person that he wants to become because he hasn't met her standards. That's really the long and short of it. I think that she might be confused about her priorities after having said that thing about if she had Oprah's money, she would marry him. Because I was like, well, that just negates the whole point of you needing him to be financially skilled in order for him to be your suitor. Because that would not require, like the Oprah thing, if you had Oprah's money, wouldn't require anything of him. So I will say that there is some confusion around, you know, back in my day, you know, people used to be married, and they still are. I think they said that there's one of their sets of parents, I don't remember which one, but they were saying that like has been married for a long time, for years and years and years. And like with people getting like arranged marriages and things like that, I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about how when we had very little and people weren't expected to have Oprah's money. We had never seen an Oprah before. People were married and they were going to work and they were making it work on one income. And I don't understand. I think this is part of the issue as to why a lot of people aren't married these days, because they're not willing to do that sort of thing. I think that that's a real issue, right? Like nobody's ready to nobody's ready to do that anymore, to make those types of sacrifices, because this is what a partner does. A partner is going to help you be the type of person that you want to become. A partner is going to stick around. They're going to do the sacrifices. She said at one point at the end of the interview, like, you know, yeah, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that, and I'm tired. You tired? The race ain't even really started yet. So maybe you guys aren't meant to be. And it sucks for me to say that. I hope that they are. I want them to find love. Like maybe this isn't the right relationship for them. There's so many things now that have happened that now we've seen that we can't unsee. And I think that's also going to be an issue for them moving forward. If they do get back together, it's like now y'all got all of us in y'all's business in a conflict. And so no matter what happens, if you guys ever have a problem in the future, somebody's going to be, you know, waving some flags because we saw this happen. And so that's one of the detrimental things about putting your relationship out there, which is why I don't know that they're going to make it, because at this point, his hope is waning. I think she's a little bit confused about what her priorities are. And she's not willing to do the work of what a wife or a partner does. I don't say even a wife, because a husband should, you know, if all of this were happening to her, they would be getting married. So this is really interesting because if the tables were turned, and I understand like the man is a provider or whatever, like in traditional ways, but like if all of this were happening to her and she was the one with the financial infidelity, they would still be getting married. And so that's why I think it's a little bit weird, right? And she says she's tired, and this is not even the beginning. Like when you start having real problems, like, you know, deaths in the family, and, you know, people, there's a lot of stuff happening out here in this world. Okay. But somebody has a health issue or something, you already tired. Like, I don't think this is gonna work, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? But this is what a family does together. They get through these things together. You know what I'm saying? They get through and they find solutions. A family sticks together, they share resources, everybody brings their piece to the table to formulate the solution. That's what a family does. That's what a partnership is. That's what a marriage is. That's my definition, right? It's like everybody's working together. And if you're going to do that in your marriage, and you're expanding your circle, and now your family is doing that, right? Then it's a successful thing. I do hope it works out for them. Maybe not in the way of them being partners together, but that I just hope that they find a way to move forward in a healthy way, whether that means this relationship or next relationship. Let me read these comments. I know. Oh, sorry. That was the last comment. Yeah, that's added pressure for sure. I think that's what she was saying when I was talking about having to be a certain way on a timeline. It's like, yeah, he's going to get better. Like, I don't know this man. I'm sorry to this man, as Keke Palmer said. I don't know this man like that, but something tells me that because he came out and admitted that he was fronting to everybody, that he gonna make sure that he could come to the other side of that and say, hey, I'm no longer fronting and I'm a millionaire. I feel like I see it in his eyes. And also all of this sort of like shaming, I'm calling it shaming, even though, that's, it's up to you to decide. But all of this, him being in the hot seat, us talking about his business, I'm so sure that that's fuel and motivation for him to get to the other side of this, so that he can say, look. And it seems like he does want to help people too. And like I'm going to watch his journey. Like, I want to see him win. And he's got these people on his side that are going to help him with finances and credit and stuff. And I want to see that. He's got Michael Scott, I think, no, Marceau's, no, not Marceau. I forget his daggone name. It's Martel, it's Marceau, and I cannot even remember the man's name. I'm so sad. I'm so sorry to this man. But one of the people from Love and Marriage Huntsville is a credit lawyer. The man, why don't I know his name? Maurice, thank you very much. It's Maurice Scott. He got Maurice Scott working with him on the credit side of it. And he's got some other people helping him. And I would imagine that those are not going to be the only people who are going to help him along the way. Because when he came out and gave his sort of side and came out and said, hey, I'm not who I've been fronting up to be all this time, that released a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? It inspired me too. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I pretend that I got it all together. I pretend that I got it all together, and nobody really has it all together, right? Anybody who tells you that is lying. And they got something going on that they're working on. And if they don't, then, they're probably lying to themselves. I mean, I'm just going to say, because nobody's perfect. You know what I'm saying? Nobody has it all together. Like, something's going on. Everybody's working towards something. Everybody's working towards getting better. And so I like I said, I wish them the best. I want us to be compassionate when we're talking about them, because they're going through a breakup, and I do care about them, weirdly enough, even though I don't know them, because I'm trauma bonded to them. I just want them to win. I want them both to win. I want all Black people to win, to be honest with you, but especially these people, because they've provided me some level of entertainment, and I see them thriving, in my fantasies. So I think they'll do well. But that's what I have to say. That's the tea with Teeti today. Thank you for joining me on my first episode. If you're watching this on the playback, make sure to comment below and tell me if you saw. First of all, you got to go watch that podcast, and it's linked below. But if you're watching in the playback, make sure to comment below, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what your thoughts were about this whole situation. I know some people were saying that they're sick of this and they don't want to hear about it anymore, but I had to come on here and put the nail in the coffin, unless they take another turn. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you so much. This perfect stranger says great live. Well, that's what I do. No, I'm joking. Thanks so much for joining me. And make sure, now I said it in the beginning, let me go back and show you again that there is a challenge that is coming up. Okay, I'm just trying to figure this thing out. Okay, oh, it's right here. Sorry. Guys, I need help, okay? Look, the ultimate ad makeover challenge. I played the commercial in the beginning. Look, guys, it's time to do this. I'm already signed up. You do not want me out here in these streets, getting finer than you. You need to sign up for this challenge so we can all win together, okay? And Rashid and Symone, if this makes it to you, I think you should sign up because you got to get your revenge body back. You know what I'm saying? Let's do this. Y'all are out there in these streets. You about to have the ultimate ad makeover challenge so you could catch you one. That's all I'm talking about. Okay, so thank you so much. And like I said, like and subscribe, and I will see y'all. I hope people see they weren't scamming now. That's what I had to address that earlier. I hope people see that they weren't scamming now too, because nobody wants to look crazy like this. No, I don't think that was any, and I still will go and support them. So, support their channels and stuff like that. She has Girl Is That Legal. He's still on Ages and Stages. I'm going to watch both of them. I really do enjoy them. They're good people, in my opinion. I think they're good people. I think they're entertaining. I think they're on the up and up. They're positive. So I support everyone. And I definitely support the Dear Future Wifey podcast because I learn a lot. So anyway, yeah. So that's it, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.